Hey guys, Emma again at the Engineer Guy, still with Barbara, and we're going to be talking about eyeshadows now. So, I don't know if you can really see this, but Barbara has a really nice round shape to her eyes, lots of lid space, and a great amount of space from her eyeball to her brow bone. So really awesome eyes for eyeshadow. So, that's what we're going to do. First, I'm going to take some eyeshadow primer. This is from Kryolan, and my hands are clean. Some people like to use a brush to apply this. I really like using my fingers. I just prefer it. So just a tiny amount, and then we'll pat that on the lid. Look down for me. And all the way up to the brow bone. Eyeshadow primer typically doesn't have any color to it, so it's not a big deal to kind of just put it all over. And then with whatever's left on my fingers, look up for me, I just like to put along the bottom lash line. Just right next to the lashes. Okay, so we're just going to do a very basic kind of contoured eye on Barbara's lids. So, first things first, I'm going to take a flat natural fiber brush and a nude eyeshadow. This one's a fairly light nude. Barbara has fair skin. And we're just going to pat that in the center of the lid. I like for it to be the brightest in the very center, but we're also going to bring that color into the inner corner. Because she already has round eyes, we don't necessarily need to make the center pop forward the most. We want to make it almost more almond, so we're going to kind of bring that color into the inner corner. Anywhere you put a bright color, it's going to bring that area forward because it's bringing light to that area. So, if you have someone who has like a very flat lid, you can put color, or a bright color, right in the center, and that'll kind of make it more rounded. Something I didn't touch on in my brushes video, but I should have, is that you want to be conscious of how you're holding your brushes. The closer you're holding to the ferrule and to the bristles, the more heavy application you'll get. And then the further back you hold it, the softer application you'll get. I typically hold my brushes pretty far back because, just like with foundation, I like to work in sheer layers. And I feel like it just gives me a more diffused look, no harsh lines or anything like that. And I do prefer to have my model look down most times rather than close her eyes because, close your eyes for me, the eye shape changes a little bit when the eyes are closed, and also their eyeballs tend to wiggle a little bit more. So if you have them just look down, it's a little bit easier to kind of keep it steady. I'm just adding a little bit more of that bright color on the ball of the eye. And with that same color, just on my pinky finger, I'm going to take it along the brow bone. So just right under the arch of the brow, kind of the highest point there. I don't know why I like using my pinky, I just do. I feel like it's the perfect shape and size for that area. And now what we'll do is go in with slightly darker nude on a fluffier brush, just to kind of start adding some dimension. This will also kind of warm up the crease of the eye because it's more of a peachy tone rather than that stark white beige color. And again, I'm holding my brush really far back, and it's a fluffy brush. The longer the bristle of the brush, the more diffused your shadows are going to be. When you're putting shadows in the crease, it's super important to keep your model's eyes open for this part. And I frequently have them kind of look over my shoulder or look just straight ahead so that I can really see where that fold is, so that I'm not putting shadow anywhere it doesn't belong. And of course, just like contouring anything else, anywhere you add light, it'll bring it forward, and anywhere you add dark, it'll push it back. And just for a little extra depth, I'm taking this orangey shadow, and I'm going to put that in the crease before we go in with our contour shade. This is just to keep it from being too boring. I'm really just using this windshield wiper motion through the crease. And I'm going to go in with a clean, fluffy brush and just run that along that line as well. Okay. Now, we're going to use a contour color. I'm going to use this guy right here, just kind of a brownie tone. And this one, I like to kind of keep it as almost like a floating parenthesis on top of her eyeball. I don't really like to take this color all the way in here or all the way out here. I really just want it to be floating right above her eyeball. Of course, there are a million different ways to do this, but that's just where I like to have the most shadow on the eye. And then with that same color, I'm going to take it just on the outside corner, right along the lash line. And I do tend to like repeating anything I did on the top eyelid onto the bottom eyelid, with the exception of this orangey color. We're going to do that. So, look up for me. We'll just take that peachy tone color and just run it right across. I'm actually going to pat it so that I'm not getting a bunch of shadow in her eye. And then with that brown color, Another great thing about using an orange shadow on Barbara's eyes is that she has blue eyes, bluish green, and so that orange is a complementary color for blue, and it'll really make them stand out. Now that I've made a mess all over her cheeks, I'm just going to take a fan brush and sweep that away. Another option is to do eyes before you do foundation so that nothing matters. And then I'm going to take a small brush like this, synthetic fiber, and take a drop of the cake liner sealer from Kryolan and put that onto the bristles. Okay. Then I'm going to take a black eyeshadow and just kind of mix that in. And I do like to use a flat brush rather than one that's angled, just because I find it easier to kind of push the liner in between the lashes that way. If I'm not doing any kind of graphic liner, it's just easier to use a straight brush. And I want to get the consistency just right. I don't need it to be too watery. It should really feel pretty firm. And now what I'll do is have Barbara look down, and I'm going to place my thumb on her eyelid and just pull up just slightly and wiggle the liner in between her lashes. This will give us the effect of her having thicker lashes because it's just adding a black background. I'm not going to take this into any kind of cat eye shape or anything like that. It's really just going to be right in between her lashes. And it's going to start and end where her natural lashes start and end. Look at me, and look down again. And now look down and that way. So the reason I have her look down and away is because it stretches out the skin right here on the inner corner so that it's a lot easier for me to maneuver. And look at me, and look down. It's always a good idea to have your model look at you every so often and also kind of stand back and check your work so that everything is symmetrical and all the areas are covered. And look down in that way. And look at me. Okay, so I'm going to darken up her crease just a tiny bit more, just with this dark brown shadow. And a fluffy brush. And again, just kind of doing that floating parenthesis. And of course, not forgetting to pat a little bit on the outer corner and the lower lash line. Alright, now I'm just going to add some mascara to Barbara's lashes. One thing I personally like to do is I'll get my mascara and then take a clean mascara wand and just kind of wipe off any excess. And then I also kind of use it to bend the wand with the product on it. And look down. I always have my model look down and tell them they can blink as much as they need to, but bending the wand definitely makes it easier to apply mascara on someone else. And now look over my shoulder. I always like to have them look over my shoulder as well, so that I can make sure the lashes are pushed up. And now look up. I personally like to do the lower lashes last, just because that's when I have the least amount of product on the spoolie, and I can just kind of lightly run it through. Look down again. And then that is our completed contoured eye.